Right, so now on to the digestive system chapter. So in this chapter, we will learn about the different organs of the digestive system and their functions. And then the identifying of organs and their parts will be for the lab exam or the practical. Right, so this is talking about first digestion. Digestion involves the mechanical and the chemical breakdown of the food. And so mechanical digestion would be like chewing the food and then also our stomach intestines breaking down the food into smaller parts. Chemical digestion, we will learn about all kinds of different enzymes that help to break down the food particles into smaller molecules. And so digestive system carries out mechanical chemical digestion, absorption of nutrients, and then finally defecation. The alimentary canal here, it includes, or I should say starting from the mouth, going to the esophagus, the stomach, intestines, and finally the anal canal. Accessory organs we're going to learn. Accessory organs are listed in the picture on the left side. These are the salivary glands, the liver. So the alimentary canal, so remember the esophagus, the stomach, the intestines, their walls are composed of 4 layers. Okay, so we're going to put a big star here. We need to know that the mucosa layer is the innermost layer. This layer absorbs nutrients. The submucosa layer, this is just right under the mucosa, so going more superficial to the outer part. This one helps us to nourish the cells, transport the food molecules. But then no, definitely the muscularis externa, this is the muscle tissue. So this is the cells, the tissue that is actually doing the work. So they move and break down the food, this muscle layer. And then the serosa is the outermost layer, that's the covering, and that's just the connective tissue. Okay, so know what these different layers do, especially know the mucosa and the muscularis externa. And so here, this is just showing the wall, the structure of the wall. The top picture just shows the intestine, how it's made up of these different layers. And in this one, we're seeing this green line here. It says here lacteal. Lacteals are found in these parts in the intestine that make these look like finger-like projections. These finger-like projections help to increase the surface area for absorption. So inside these finger-like projections, which are called the villi, are the lacteals. Lacteals are absorbing fat. Movements of the tube, or really more specifically, the muscular actions. Know that segmentation is the muscle contraction that breaks the food apart into smaller parts. And then know that peristalsis is to move the food in one direction, so down the canal. And so you can see in the pictures on the right, it's showing the segmentation versus peristalsis. All right, so the digestive system can actually contract on its own, just very similar to the heart. It is able to create its own electrical signals when it senses that there's food inside of it. But so then the brain is also controlling it. The brain can increase or decrease the activity. And so you should know this already. Parasympathetic increases the digestive system. Sympathetic inhibits the digestive system. The branches of these nerves are located in the submucosal region. So this is that layer. So there's the submucosal plexus. Know that nerves are located in there. And there's also the myenteric plexus that contains these nerves. And know that these nerves are located in the muscularis externa. Oops. Next, the mouth. So the mouth is really the first part of the alimentary canal. So it's the part where you ingest the food, meaning put it in your mouth. Know this word mastication. Mastication just means chewing. So here it says mechanical breakdown, or you can write down chewing here. Well, the mouth is also important for speech, sensory reception, and we all know these parts. Next, the palate. So the palate refers to the roof of your mouth, the roof of the oral cavity. It consists of the hard part or the bony part. This is more the anterior region. And then the back part is soft. We We call it soft because it's muscular. So I'm going to get you guys a really good picture for the lab, and we'll go through the hard palate versus soft palate. The uvula is the region that is the very end of the soft palate. So this is the part where when you open your mouth and say ah, and it swings back and forth. And then we're going to learn about the tonsils. We have the palatine tonsils. These are right in the back of our mouth. So these are the ones that get removed when you have tonsillectomy. Lingual tonsil is attached to the back of your tongue, and the pharyngeal tonsils are instead on the back of your nasal cavity. So we will identify these for your lab exam. Next, teeth. For the teeth, know that we have 20 primary teeth, meaning that these are the ones that fall out, and then we have 32 secondary, or the permanent teeth. We will go over the parts of the tooth in the lab, so I'll get you a better picture than this. Next, the salivary glands. We have 3 different salivary glands, and they're releasing saliva. Know that inside the saliva, we have this enzyme called amylase. Know that this breaks down starch. And so here we are starting the first chemical breakdown of food, but here it's only the starch that gets broken down. There's also bicarbonate ions. These help to neutralize acidic foods. So bicarbonate is more basic, so that's how it's neutralizing acids. So we will learn about these salivary glands. Parotid gland, we're going to learn that it's right in front of our ear. Yeah, so the anterior part of our ear. Submandibular glands are located under the mandible, and the sublingual is located under the tongue. The pharynx. Pharynx means the back of the nose, back of the mouth, and also back of the, or I should say in the region of our vocal cords region. So the nasopharynx, so they try to label here, nasopharynx is the region behind the nasal cavity, oropharynx is the region behind the mouth, and the laryngopharynx is then the region of our vocal cords. And so we will learn about the vocal cords much more when we get to the respiratory system. So here the vocal cords are in this region. This is called the larynx. So right in that region, laryngopharynx. Next, swallowing. There are the different stages that allow us to swallow the food. The first stage, voluntary stage. So in this one, this is just basically chewing. So you chew the food gets mixed with the saliva, so the starch is getting broken down. And they say bolus for the food, the chewed food. Okay, so now next, the food then is going to reach the oropharynx. So this is the first, really kind of the main part of swallowing. So in this part, what I want you to know, the soft palate and the uvula raise. So this is to block the food from going into your nasal cavity when you swallow it. Sometimes it doesn't work, and the food can end up in the nose. Then also know the epiglottis folds down on the trachea. So this is the little flap that closes off the trachea, your windpipe, so the food doesn't go down to your trachea, down to your lungs. You don't want that. There are also these muscles that relax that help to open up the esophagus. And the peristaltic waves force the food down into the esophagus. And then finally, the third stage, peristalsis, and transports the food to the stomach. And so here, the first picture at the top, the A, this is just showing how the tongue is forcing the food back to the oropharynx. Then we can see here in the second stage, the soft palate and the uvula raise up. So if you compare it to that first picture, you can see the uvula is still hanging down, but when in the second stage, the soft palate uvula raise. And then also here, the epiglottis is folding down. And then here in the third wave, that's just showing the peristalsis moving the food down to the stomach.